Another day in beautiful paradise here in sunny California.
Sunny and about to get rainy, California.
I know, that's what I heard. So
We
we
got
are,
some rain. We got rain coming tomorrow.
well, we do got some rain coming tomorrow. I guess I shouldn't have watered my lawn today then, huh? Shit
No.
happens.
But anyways, welcome out to the Ring Live fans. It is Sunday, December the 27th, 2 days after Christmas 2020, and we are back on Enter the Ring Live. Although we will be without our third member of our broadcast team, Eric Mendiola, who's currently up in Gresham, Oregon. He's got some personal business he's attending to, but I'm sure he'll tune in and watch when he can. So what's up, Eric?
Yeah, what's up, my brother Eric? We miss you, bro. Eric the Red.
Eric the Red. All right. Well, like I said, Sunday, December 27th, believe it or not, we did have some fights this weekend. We did have a decent card from the Shrine Auditorium in downtown Los Angeles yesterday, PBC. The prelims on Fox Sports 1 switched over to regular Fox on I believe at right around 5 o'clock our time. I got to be honest, man. I mean, I can't completely forgot that these fights were happening, and then you reminded me that James Kirkland was fighting, and I said, "Oh man, I got to watch this broadcast."
Yeah.
What did you think of when you saw James Kirkland on the broadcast?
Pretty much you see the image on there, right? That's how I felt.
Well, yeah. For those of you that don't know, I mean, James Kirkland, 36 years old. This was the third fight of his comeback after a long absence from the ring, mostly due to some personal problems, some substance abuse problems. He did a small stint in prison. He comes back on this card. They said he had fought twice in 2019, obviously before COVID, and this was his first fight, during the pandemic. And I don't know, man. I mean, when I saw him coming into the ring, I mean, he was still in decent shape. Not quite that Atlas type physique that he's always possessed, but he still looked like he was in shape. But something about the eyes, man. There's just like this hollow blank stare in his eyes, and I don't know.
I noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that too when you told me that, because I didn't catch the fight live. You saw it and then you called me, and it wasn't a fight I was really looking forward to, but I honestly thought he was going to make a better account of himself. You're absolutely right. He almost looked unstable with his corner at one point. I mean, before the fight even started, I remember his corner man kind of put his hand on his shoulder, and James looked very unstable. I was thinking to myself, like, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, like he was almost like, if I could read his mind, it was probably like, I don't need you to tell me nothing. You're just here to, I know what I need to do.
No, I don't mean just mentally. I mean, like balance wise. He looked like balance wise, like his balance was off, like his equilibrium was off or something. He looked very stiff and rigor mortis and stuff as he turned around. And you're right. He had that very dead look in his eyes.
Yeah. And he fought a guy named Juan Montiel, who, believe it or not, they said is the nephew of, who's the little flyweight?
Fernando
Montiel. It was his nephew. And the guy had a decent record. I think he was 20 wins, 4 losses. And he had, 12, 13 KOs. Obviously, he didn't have the record and the credentials that Kirkland did. Kirkland, only 2 losses were to Canelo and another high-profile guy. But they said, 30 of his 34 wins were by knockout. So you figure, okay, well, the last thing to go is the power. But once the fight started, the first little nothing left hook that landed on the temple that hit Kirkland on the right side of his right temple put him down. I mean, he went forward, and even when he got up, he just did not look steady. He's just at that point in his life where any little nothing punch is going to hurt him, and it was just hard to watch, man.
Oh, I know. It really was, bro. I mean, it was one of those things, like you said. You made a comment, I'll let you kind of elaborate on it more about with Sean Porter. But for me personally, I mean, here's a guy at one point in his career, he was like, the ring book, prospect of the year almost. I mean, you had every promotion out there talking about it. He had this glorified story with the amazing Ann Wolfe, who was in her own right an amazing, probably to me, the best women boxer of all time. I mean, she's right up there with
Definitely the toughest.
absolutely.
Definitely the toughest.
And I would honestly say one of the most knowledgeable too. There's a reason why she became a trainer, and people like Leilani Ali and even Jacqueline Frazier and these other ones never did, because Anne understands boxing.
And you know, I would venture to say I had read or heard somewhere in an interview that her training methods were very unorthodox. They were very like derived from like a military style. Very, very let's just put it this way. If you wanted Ann Wolf to train you, you better be prepared to get your ass kicked for a good 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, physically, but whenever she had James ready for a fight, he was ready for a fight. And needless to say, all of his, you know, his devastating losses were during times where he elected not to use Ann Wolf. Hence, maybe slacking off in training, not really preparing yourself. I mean, it's one thing to make weight. A lot of guys make weight the wrong way, you know, but you know, to do it right and to really get yourself in the physical shape and condition needed to fight a full 10 or 12 rounds, whatever it may be, is something completely different. And Kirkland proceeded to get knocked down 2 more times. After the second knockdown, I said to myself, okay, Jerry Cantu, you can stop the fight now, because there was, at this point, he was getting hit with every shot that Montiel was throwing. And it isn't like Montiel was some murderous puncher or some physical specimen. Thank God he wasn't. Yeah. Thank God this was somebody, you know, like I said, no discredit to Montiel, but this is not somebody that was on anybody's radar to make any noise at 160 pounds. But my God, by the time the third knockdown happened, didn't have to happen. I think everybody at home and everybody in that building would have been completely fine with them waving it off after the second knockdown, because James got up on steady legs. At one point, he got hit and his back was to him, and he just, I don't know, he made this step almost like Zab Judah did when Kasazu knocked him out all those years ago. He just was, but even worse, I think, because I don't know, because he had been on the receiving end of some devastating knockouts.
Well, yeah, his knockout to Canelo some years back was, you know, it was a devastating knockout. I mean,
it was a highlight reel KO. I mean, it was,
yeah, and, you know, and even if you go back, that shows you how much James has slipped as a professional. When you go back to Canelo fight, even though Canelo was pretty much dominant in it, he had a few moments in that fight, you know what I'm saying, where he was actually engaging Canelo and doing some things. Let's be honest, no disrespect to Montiel, but in what world are you going to equate Montiel with Canelo Alvarez when you can't get out of the way of the punches, avoid the punches of a guy like Montiel, or allow the impact of those punches to do what it did to Kirkland? It's a sign where it's time for James to think about another thing, something else to do in life. Because,
well, yeah, I think even before this fight, I think, and this trainer that was with them, I don't know who I did not recognize him, and it had nothing to do with the fact that he was wearing a mask. I did not know who this guy was. And I got to be honest, there's probably not a lot of credible, reputable trainers out there would have taken this assignment. They probably would have told James, hey, James, really, we don't need this, man. You know, it makes me sad, because here's a guy that in the ring, he just was almost unbeatable, but outside the ring, he was very beatable. And, you know, whether it be the substance abuse issues that, you know, and sadly, it's probably the people he was running with. I know he's from Texas. He's running with the wrong crowd, getting involved in stuff he shouldn't be getting involved in. Sean Porter made a comment how it was very hard for him to watch. He was very, at the end of the fight, it's almost like he didn't even want to talk about it. We couldn't see him, you know, on the podium there, but he was probably turning his head, and just because he didn't want to see it. It was like, I don't want to see that train wreck that's happening in front of me, even though I'm getting paid to be here and cover this. But he said at one point, you know, Kirkland was the guy that he really looked up to coming up, you know, and he was a guy that maybe he wanted to mold his style after, you know. I mean, just a come forward, aggressive.
He was kind of, yeah. Well, what's the old saying, bro? You never want to meet your heroes, because you're always going to be disappointed. And the thing is that, you know, I go back to when I was, you know, pursuing a career in boxing a little bit. And I remember me and my father, we had gone to see a stablemate of mine when he won his title against Daniel Zaragoza, Paul Benke. And I saw a fighter there, and I think I mentioned this before.
Yeah.
Named, Dana Rawson, that I really admired. He was he was a fighter from ESPN that literally, when I was doing training things, I would emulate him a little bit, because he was so explosive. He was kind of like Mayweather before Mayweather was Mayweather. in a way. You know what I'm saying? He had the moves, but he had this one hitter quitter. Almost reminded me of a smaller version of Donald Curry. And
Okay.
to see him on a undercard where after the fights are over, people are leaving, the janitors are out there picking up the trash, and he's fighting against some kid from Mexico that's coming in with a, with a 4-2 record, and he's lost 17 straight. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wow,
Yeah.
And I got to go up and I actually got to talk to him before he got in the ring. And I was like, hey, Dana, is everything okay, man? It's like, he just kind of nodded. I was just like, just
I tell you, man, that's the hard part about this business. Eh, I don't know, not to equate it to a human being to an animal, but the two sports that me and you really like a lot are we like obviously we love boxing, we like horse racing a lot too, and then you see these boxers, they just kind of get cast aside, and it's the promoters and stuff that always get the microphone shoved in front of their face because they want them to say a nice word about the fighters, whether it be posthumously after their untimely death or after the careers have completely fallen apart and they're despondent, they're with living on the streets. Like I mean, you can sit here, we could do a show for 5 hours talking about just the fighters that
we know
that have just been cast aside, like like a racehorse that can't cross the finish line. It's sad, man, because
you made a comment just recently. We didn't get to speak about it because it just happened in between our little break with a couple of days, but we lost another great fighter in Frankie the Surgeon Randall,
mm-hmm.
who recently passed away in kind of like
assisted living
suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yeah, severe dementia and Alzheimer's, obviously as a result of his years in the ring. And here's a guy that they said he fought one too many fights. He had his heyday against Chavez, fought some big names. And, I think believe it or not, Don King was even asked that question this past week. And, he obviously had good things to say about him. He was a warrior. Everybody's gonna say the same thing. It's almost like a script. Okay, here, read this, yeah, he was a great warrior and he always gave it his all. And it's like, yeah, but, and all the money you made on this guy, what did you actually do to try to help them? And far too often, a lot of these fighters, they don't have people looking out for them while they're fighting, or because it starts there. I mean, at the end of the day, nobody's going to be like, okay, well, your career is over. Now let me show you what you need to do to survive after boxing. That needs to start from the minute these guys step in the ring for their very first pro fight. They need to figure out a way to set up some type of a retirement plan, something long-term, because the life of a professional boxer is a very short-lived. I mean, even if you've got a good 10, 15-year career in the scope of a life of 75, 80 years, that's less than 1/5. So it isn't like these guys, most people work from the time they're 20 to the time they retire, 65, 70. Nobody has a 40 to 45-year boxing career.
No.
If you can get a 10-year career out of it, 10 to 15 years, you've done something right. You know what I mean?
No, no, you're absolutely right, bro. And the thing is, it's sad because boxing, it's over in a blink.
It is, man.
I've heard a lot of fighters say that one day you wake up and next thing you know, you went from being that young prospect to past that opportunity to be a contender. And there's, they don't have those, like you said, a 401k and a retirement plan and all these things put together. There have been some smart trainers in the past. One of them being the late Customato and what he did for Mike Tyson with Kevin Rooney, where they kind of put together a little clause inside there that kind of put a little slush fund for Mike after he got railed by Don King. There was a little something there, and then it was able to help Mike to kind of get back on his feet and then go after Don King for some additional money. But I think trainers need to look at that more, and especially not just trainers. I'm not going to put this all on trainers. I'm going to put this more towards our managers, because at the end of the day, and promoters, where if they put something where they just took a fraction off of some of these guys' purses and put it into some type of a residual fund, like a Fidelity or something like this, that's going to build a little bit of interest. These guys might have something when their boxing days are over. Not everybody's going to get the opportunity, like people like Sean Porter and Timothy Bradley and Audrey Ward, to get a commentating job behind,
there's only so many asses you can kiss,
correct.
No, there's only so many asses to kiss is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And the thing is that, so for a lot of these guys, the choice is, do I become a trainer or do I try to, it's hard for these guys to go back in a normal society and work a regular job, because when you've been at that level, and I'm going to just use this person as an example with John Molina, the Gladiator, who recently retired. He's now a Los Angeles police officer.
He's a sheriff.
A sheriff, correct. But you have to wonder. I mean, only Johnny would be able to tell us best. But how do you go from being a guy fighting on primetime, main event, fight of the year, Ring Book Magazine, Lucas Matisse, to now being a sheriff and something a little bit more low profile? It's got to be a huge transition, and only he could tell us that. But that's a conversation I would love to have, because it would help us kind of understand maybe a few of these things are going on with some of these guys today, because a lot of them, they can't go back to their normal life. A
lot of them never had a normal life before that. Let's be honest. A lot of guys from the time they were, this big, that's all they've known is to fight. And that's why they need.
And if they do go back to their normal life, it probably ends up with the bad elements that they ran away from in order to become a boxer in the first place.
Exactly. Boxing is the escape. And when the escape is no longer there, then you go right back, like you said, to what they were trying to escape in the first place. Very sad.
Well, that's like the story about Kronk Stables. I saw this thing, and I mean, how many fighters from there? I mean, you got Sneed that was killed in a drug situation. You got Dwayne Thomas, was a former champion, who was killed in a drug thing. You got Mike the Bounty Hunter, who was also involved with Kronk at the time, who was killed in a bounty thing. Darnell Chambers, who fought for a world title, who ended up in prison, for life in prison. I mean, it's like a who's who all the way down the list.
And these are all guys that very well could have been household names.
These were all Kronk fighters.
I mean, look at James Kirkland. I mean, we started talking about James Kirkland. I mean, God knows what James Kirkland could have been if he would have been able to escape those demons, and the demons being the people, that maybe were dragging him in the wrong direction. What's that old saying? Misery loves company. And at the end of the day, these guys fall victim to the people that they come up with, bad influences, whatever. And it's because in some subsets of the population, you can't turn your back on your homies or whatever it is where you come from, because then you're considered a sellout and this and that. And that's bullshit. I mean, Floyd Mayweather left Grand Rapids, Michigan as soon as he was able to, and he's never looked back. Matter of fact, I don't know if he's ever stepped foot back in Grand Rapids his entire life.
You're absolutely right, bro. And there's always another name that always sticks out to me when I think about these sad, I want to call them sad song stories of boxing and stuff. And one of them that really sticks out to me is a guy who had so much potential. You've actually seen the guy fight live, and that is Paul Spadafora. And when I think of Paul Spadafora and where he's at this point in his life, not even talk about boxing, in his life, and the demons in which he's trying to keep away from himself right now. We're talking about a guy who supposedly, and I believe it. I saw the video, what he did to Mayweather in the gym, what this guy's done. It's sad. It's really sad. You think about guys like him, Kelly Pavlik, and others, guys that really had the world right there and just let it slip right through their fingers.
Yeah. So anyways, man, so all we can do is that, if you were ever a fan of James Kirkland, even if you weren't, but if you're a fan of the human spirit and the fact that this man was still at 36 years old in there trying to give it his all and try
to say a prayer for him, man.
Say a prayer for. I was going to say the same thing, but say a prayer for James Kirkland, because I know for sure. I sure as hell did. When I saw that, man, I shook my head and I said, "Oh God, please, somebody, please, man. I hope he's got some loved ones around him, people that will pick him back up, because mentally he's probably just destroyed right now. It's one thing to get stopped by a Canelo Alvarez, devastating it, but then it's a whole nother to get stopped by a Juan Montiel. Not, and like I said, no disrespect to Montiel, but.
And that's the kind of thing that will push a guy like that over the edge. He'll end up back on drugs or alcohol, or he'll end up back in prison. And you don't want to see that with James Kirkland. Because at the end of the day, one of the things I remember Ann Wolf said about James was he's a bit of a knucklehead. He's a bit stubborn, but he's got a heart of gold. He said that about James Kirkland, that the guy had a heart of gold. And that was his biggest problem, was he was always willing to help somebody. And most of the time it got him in trouble. Yeah,
and then what happens to all the guys that that you help along the way? They bail. They bail. They're out the back door.
But like I said, you're absolutely right. Say a prayer for James Kirkland and stuff. I hope that things work out for him.
Maybe I don't know, man. Maybe someone like a Sean Porter. Maybe Sean Porter can. Sean Porter's actually a very high profile guy in boxing right now, and I think more so, believe it or not. Look, we all know Sean Porter's a warrior in the ring. Okay. I mean, there's some fights that he's got the nod in where I didn't agree with, but then there's a couple of fights where he really showed his mettle. And I think at the end of the day, a guy like Sean Porter and his dad, Kenny Porter, I think they're good people, man. Good God-fearing people.
They're good ambassadors for the sport.
And maybe Sean could do a little something and say, hey, James, listen, man, because he knows a lot of people, man. Maybe they can get him on the right track. Maybe they can get him helping out at a gym or doing something or, anything. These guys know These guys rub elbows with the biggest people in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The biggest people in the world are boxing fans. You know how I know that? Look at last night. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's the end of 2020, so they're going back on ESPN and on Fox, and they're showing all the big fights from 2020, and they were showing the Wilder Fury Part 2. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that last night. I watched the fight all over again. Man, you looking in the crowd, and it's everybody from musicians to politicians to, I saw Robert Shapiro, who was famous for defending OJ Simpson, like in the second row, right there, front and center. I mean, everybody in the world.
I think the Queen of England was hiding somewhere up there in the skyboxes somewhere.
Dude, you know that thing? Where's Waldo at? Dude, Waldo was in the third row at the freaking Fury Wilder fight.
Oh, you know the Queen was watching. I mean, you got Fury out there, even though he's from Ireland, but she's probably like, nobody bother me. I'm watching my boy fight.
Dude, I think Prince Charles, I don't know. He looks like he's got a couple cauliflowers in those years. I
don't know.
Anyways, let's finish up on this PBC card that happened on last night. Okay, in one of the co-main events, it actually was a swing bout because that fight, the Kirkland fight, ended so fast. They threw what's called the swing bout in there, which basically you got the Barrientos brothers, the twins. They're fighting out of Vegas now, living and training in Vegas. Both brothers are twins. They're 18 years old. The one brother, Chavez Barrientos, he won his fight earlier in the night. I think it was like a second or third round stoppage. But the other brother, Angel Barrientos, he ended up getting stopped in the fourth round. A kid from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. A kid, a tough kid, 3-0 with 2 knockouts. Kid named Trevon Lawson. Obviously brought in to be the opponent, but this guy was having none of it. And here's the thing. The first round, Barrientos controlled the pace because he's tall. He's 5'10", 5'11" for fighting at 122 pounds. Kid's tall. Jabbing, moving, whatever, clinching when he has to. The kid does clinch a bit too much. Then by the second, third round, he starts getting tagged a little bit by this kid Lawson. This kid Lawson is kind of finding his range and going, okay, I'm going to have to take a few to get inside, but maybe this Barrientos kid doesn't hit as hard as it may appear to, and it really drives me nuts because the only one that actually was saying it was Goosen. And Goosen, I'm no fan of Joe Goosen at all. But Goosen was actually saying, hey, this Lawson's landed a couple here, and he's landing a shot here, landing a shot there, and he's starting to kind of walk through Barrientos' punches and landing his own punches. Sure enough, man, in the fourth round, he ended up landing a series of punches where it wasn't like, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was like one here, tie up, boom, another one, boom. And I think they said they counted 5 or 6 right hands, but the last right hand that landed put the kid on. I almost said, well, I don't want to say it. They put the kid out. I mean, he got up, he beat the count, but there was 2 minutes left in the round still in this fourth round. And the referee looked at him and said, come forward. Are you okay? Are you okay? And he kind of half-hearted nod. He didn't say much as he had blood coming out of his nose. And the referee waved it off. And then he said, I'm good. But he wasn't good. And Porter made a great point. He said, he's known those kids for years, because Sean lives and trains in Vegas where those kids, he said he's known those kids for a long time and could have saved the kid's career. Now, me personally, I think they were a bit overblown and overhyped, to be honest with you. I think I know the whole we're identical twin things. They come from Hawaii. They're pulling fans from their Hispanic side, but then they're also half Filipino. So those are two of the biggest boxing fan pools out there. You know what I mean? Filipino fans are diehard. Hispanic, Mexican American fans are diehard. So they kind of had a little bit of both. It was almost like Pacquiao and Marquez fans.
Absolutely, yeah.
To build off of. But I think both these kids are 18 years old. They are physically not ready to be in this ring. They should have waited, followed. I know amateurs are at a standstill right now, but still, man, they're bit off a little bit too much too fast.
Well, unfortunately, bro, we live in an MTV world where there's a lot too many parents out there are looking for a way that they can capitalize on their children's youth and whatever else that they're able to exhume,
whatever they're lacking in their life.
Exactly, they're going to live vicariously through them and stuff.
Yeah,
but you made a great point though, because we were talking about it, and that was another fight I didn't get to see because I was in the middle of taking care of some stuff, but I got to see it later on. It's just a sheer attitude. He had this rotten attitude where even when the fight was over, when they were talking to Lawson, he was already making his exit out of the ring. And you could just see, he looked like a little kid that was told to go to his room by his parents, pouting the entire way. And I'm thinking to myself,
I don't like that.
Yeah, you don't got it mentally to be able to control yourself.
You got to take the good with the bad, bro.
Got to have thick skin, man. I say it in everything, whether it be music or sports. If you don't got thick skin, don't even attempt it, because believe me, you're going to run into some very uncomfortable situations in your life. Believe me.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I was willing to see is I wanted to see the kid be able to accept it. Now, I get it. Nobody wants to lose, okay? This was only his 4th or 5th pro fight. Nobody wants to lose. But hey, look at it like this way. That referee saved your career, or what you think your career could be, because if that fight would have been allowed to continue, that guy Lawson was not taking his foot off the gas. And that kid was getting stronger.
When I watched it again, and not to say the attitude.
He reminded me, he looked like to me like a young, small Marlon Starling. He looked like, but with more tattoos. He looked like Marlon and fought like him. And most people probably even know who Marlon Starling was, but that's what it reminded me of.
Magic Man.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the guy who actually ended Mark Breland, if you want to go back, he's the guy that ended Mark Breland. So, but Marlon Starling, great fighter. But I mean, the thing was with this kid that I noticed, this fight kind of remind me of Carlos Balderas' fight in a sense. Yeah. Because the kid came out, and not to say, I'm not saying Balderas has an attitude like this kid. Balderas conducts himself very professional. You've met him before, you met he's an example, he's a good kid. But this kid, on the other hand, was just rotten to the core. But the point is that where they had all of this promise and this praise on this kid, and little by little, like Iran did against Balderas, he started to kind of like find his distance, and he got inside there
range.
His range, and he got these punches in. So it was very similar in those senses, just like Balderas was kind of saved in his fight against Iran. They could have let this go on, and I know Carlos probably would have wanted to go on, but at some point you got to say enough is enough. Let's put everything together and reset and come back another day.
Yeah, and I think me and you, we discussed before going live tonight. We discussed this, and we try not to go off too much on this because we really want to get to the main topic of tonight's show. But whether it's this kid Barrientos, and I can't really say nothing about the brother Chavez because I didn't see his fight. It was a non-televised fight. But
if they're twins, I'm sure that there's not much.
What I hear, what they're saying is that the one Angel, the one that got knocked out, they said he's much more serious than Mina Stoke. I mean, they can call it whatever they want, but to me, I think it's a shitty attitude. Maybe he's the younger of the two twins. Maybe he's the one that feels I got to prove something because my older brother, even though they're only 13 minutes apart or whatever. But whether it's him, whether it's Teofimo, whether it's Berlanga, whether it's Rolly Romero, I mean, this new crop of guys coming up, man. Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney can be that way, but these guys, they are so. It's this new generation. I don't know what it is. They disrespect the sport. They never give respect to their opponents. They're just, I don't know what you want to call it.
It's a false sense of superiority, bro. It's a false sense that they've been put on this throne, that they've been cast into greatness. And you know what? Proof's not there yet. Like James Kirkland. Kirkland was like this at one point in his career without the mouth. Kirkland was considered the next great champion. Kirkland was considered a great contender. He just didn't have the mouth. Now you saw what happened to his career. Every single one of these fighters, from Shakur to Devin Haney to Raleigh to Teofimo, they could all end up this way. And believe me, when you spent your career talking the way that they've been talking lately, you don't want to end your career like James Kirkland.
Well, yeah. But I mean, I don't think any of these guys, with the exception of maybe a Devin Haney, I don't think we forgot to throw Ryan Garcia in there too, because he's the same way. That's just, I mean, these guys, they just lack respect for their opponents. And I tell you, man, every dog has their day.
Yep.
And sometimes it comes in the form of a boxing match, and sometimes it comes in the form of something else. They're going to cross somebody wrong outside the boxing ring. You know what I mean? And there can be no referee there, no Marcus of Queensberry rules. And these guys are going to cross the wrong person the wrong way, and they're going to have 17 of their homies, as their personal protection. So I don't know, man. I don't like this new crop of fighters.
No, I don't.
And I'm not trying to sound like an old guy that's like, oh, these young kids today. But there's a lot of young fighters out there today. There's a lot of young guys. For example, I'll give you, another guy that fought on the card, the main event, David Morrell, the kid from Cuba. Very skilled fighter, but respectful. And yeah, he got a little bit brash and cocky at a certain point once he kind of figured he could do whatever he wanted with his opponent. But
Always respectful during,
It's just different, man. It's
yeah.
different. Even Felix Verdejo a couple weeks ago, who lost, young, brash, young guy, but he wasn't disrespectful
Mm-mm.
in his demeanor in the ring and outside the ring. These new crop of guys, man, I got no time for them. And in fact, they're trying to take a page out of out of Mayweather's book, and I'm going to be the bad guy. But I really don't think that's what it is. Maybe that's their excuse. But I think at the end of the day, I just don't think they're very likable people. I think they lack a lot of moral fiber. I really do.
I agree. I agree with you, bro. And I was watching. I know you probably heard those ridiculous statements that came from Shakur Stevens. Um, you talk
About
about
Lomachenko.
yeah, you talk about a guy that at one point I thought, and don't get me wrong, people are gonna say, well, just because he talks a lot doesn't mean that he's lost his potential. Well, in a way, it has, because at the end of the day, when you start to lose fans and the fans start turning against you, your mindset, your concentration goes from what you need to achieve to how you need to defend. And right now, Shakur Stevens' mind's doing this instead of doing this. And
Yeah,
that's
you're
when you
right.
get tripped up.
You're right. You're right. You're right. It's almost like playing a prevent defense,
Thank
right?
you.
In
Yep.
football, you're no longer focused on what you need to do. Now you've
Correct.
changed your entire strategy, because now you got two fights: the fight in front of you and then the fight outside of you. The fight
Thank you.
that you're trying to control. I want people to like me, or
Yeah.
I'm the man at this division. I'm the this. I'm the
When he
that.
should just be focused on his next victory
Let
and
your
his next
hands
opponent.
do the talking, man. Let your
These
fists
guys
do the
need to
talking.
stop talking because they're making themselves all look like idiots and stuff. But
Yeah.
you're right, bro. This new crop, there's some fighters out there that just really just nauseate my stomach. And I'm not talking about anything about their overall skill, because when I look at their skill, I'll give you a case in point, Berlanga. I look at a guy here who's
yet to fight a live body.
yeah, a guy with an actual pulse, okay? And when he does fight one, he thinks because he goes in there and he hits a few guys that can't move, he's got this thing and he's already ready to start calling out guys like Canelo and
Give me a
everybody
break.
else. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, all right, okay. At some point, you gotta be a trainer's got to be a trainer. This is where trainers get involved, not managers. Managers always thinking of a way, a hook, so they can make more money. And if it's gonna be throwing this kid in with the Lions like Canelo to make some quick money, he's gonna do it, because there's a lot of Berlangas out there, and he'll find another one to replace you. Believe me.
Oh yeah, and there's no loyalty in this game.
Oh yeah, but when it comes to trainers, they have a little bit more of an investment in you because they spend every day with you. How many days do you really spend with your manager? Not very many,
Yeah.
So the bottom line is a trainer, he has a little bit more investment inside of you, being the fact that you're part of his normal routine. And if he knows that he's training you from this time to this time every day in the morning, or whether it be after the night, that's part of his life. That's his routine. And so when you go out there and you say something, that's the trainer's time to turn around and tell you, hey, shut the F up. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and let's don't get ahead of the game right now, okay? Because we got a long ways to go. Don't start calling guys out because you just knocked out a guy who supposedly was a sparring partner to somebody. What did a sparring partner become a way to gauge a guy's ability? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's really bad, man. And I'll tell you what, I mean, this, Berlanga, I'd like to see Berlanga getting there with this David Morrell Jr. from last night.
Morrell
destroy him. I mean, this is a slick fighter, man. This is a guy that knows how to fight, and he's got ability, he's got range,
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Maybe. I think, I honest to God, if Berlanga was with anybody but Top Rank, I would say, but Top Rank, true to form, will keep this guy protected. They'll keep feeding him stiff after stiff, flat-footed stiff after stiff with suspect chins to just, they're trying to build the next, I don't know what they're trying to build the next, I don't know. Who knows? But
like a Koblov, but he's so far from Koblov. So why don't we go ahead and you want to jump into the big fight coming up?
Well, yeah. Okay. So this weekend coming up, right? It is this weekend, right? Yeah. It's this weekend coming up. That's right, because New Year's Day is February is the 1st, Friday. So Saturday, January the 2nd, from the arena in Dallas, Texas. Luke Campbell and Ryan Garcia, the main event on DAZN. You actually did your homework the last couple of days, and you discussed something with me on the phone. I think it was yesterday or today. I'll go ahead and let you say what you told me about. You did a little bit more research into Luke Campbell's background and how, this might be the perfect opponent for Ryan Garcia.
No, you're absolutely right, because one of the things that I noticed, going back and looking at some video of the fights, even in Campbell's 2 losses, Well, he's got 3 losses, but I mean, the 2 losses that were the high profile losses,
Linares and Lomachenko.
Linares and Lomachenko. Both fights, he had his moments, but at no point did you ever feel that Luke Campbell was the man who was going to come out victorious at the end of the fight.
Yeah.
Okay. He had his shortcomings in both fights. But then you go back even farther to an earlier loss that he had against Mendy. And then you look at even some of his fights that were in between. And I'll be honest with you, he's not as polished as a guy who supposedly got an Olympic gold medal that you would think. I think that there's a lot of
let me ask you a question real quick, not to cut you off, but what year did he win? Did he win his gold medal the same year Anthony Joshua won his?
Yes.
So he had the home field advantage in London.
Correct.
And I'm not saying that's what happened, because I can't honestly say I watched any of his fights as an amateur, but it's very possible, because they say AJ didn't really win that gold medal. I don't know, somebody from somewhere, they said beat him, but of course he got the nod.
But we're seeing that right now, even with Anthony Joshua is, they always fall back on the fact that he's this gold medalist and he's got this amazing pedigree, this thing about it. And then we see him in the ring and we're like, God, you know what I see? I see a guy who's afraid to get hit. When he does get hit, he goes down, and I don't understand it, because he's not going to beat Tyson Fury. He's going to have to fight the fight of his life to avoid that, M16 missile coming from Deontay Wilder. So, I mean, that's what it is. So, I mean, I feel we're in the same situation with Luke Campbell. And I'm not trying to discredit Luke Campbell or trying to take some of the shine away if Garcia wins this fight. I'm just saying, you might not want to put all your eggs in one basket and crown King Rye, the next coming of Salvador Sanchez just yet. Because I tell you right now,
just because he beats Campbell,
Just because he beats Campbell. Because honestly, I don't think Campbell is that big of a step up right now. I think Campbell is another situation like with Canelo Alvarez and Colin Smith, where we knew, me and my brother said this a long time ago, in a lot of people's eyes out there, they're looking and saying, oh my God, Callum Smith, the number 1 guy at 168, blah, blah, blah. But we said, well, wait a minute. He's kind of tailor-made for Canelo, the way he fights, and he's never been at this juncture in his life.
Yeah.
The situation here.
His most impressive win, I think, prior to Canelo was stopping George Groves, who at that point in his career was as chinny as they come. Yeah. He had been knocked down, hurt, dropped, stopped. I don't know.
Didn't win against Ryder, as far as I'm concerned.
No, and didn't really. Yeah. So,
but that's the situation I'm saying, like with Campbell and with King
and Garcia.
And Garcia is that Garcia, yes, he looked devastating against guys like Fonseca. He looked devastating against Dunas. But let's be honest, okay? I think his most impressive victory was over Fonseca. To me, I was shocked in that fight. I expected.
Is that the one he landed the left hook and?
Yes.
No. Okay.
And the thing is because Fonseca looked so strong in his fights against Tank Davis. He gave Tank Davis everything Tank Davis needed. Tank Davis actually won that fight when I thought was an illegal punch. Fonseca was making his way back, and now was Tank. He coming overweight. We talked about it, bro. He coming overweight for that fight. So how much? How seriously did Tank really train
take that
for that
fight? Yeah,
take that fight. Where Ryan, Garcia comes in and he does what he does with Fonseca.
Yeah,
I mean, but the thing is, like I said, I mean, I just feel it's the same situation with Luke Campbell. I went back and I was looking at it and I was thinking to myself, okay, Lomachenko, is a skilled fighter. He's fast. But let's be honest, even Lomachenko or Linares, as quick and strong as they are, they don't have the speed that Garcia has. That's one thing Garcia, I don't know how much of a punch he has and how much of that is for show. I really can't gauge that against a midget and the kid Dunas. But in this situation, Campbell's shown to being a little chitty at times. So he gets caught by something. All of a sudden, people are going to think, oh, this guy's the next coming of Mike Tyson. What do you think, bro?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Ryan Garcia has an impressive record. I don't give a shit about his Instagram, Facebook followers. That none of that means anything, because those people that follow you on Instagram do not do not subscribe to DAZN. They do not buy pay-per-view tickets. They do not buy general admission tickets. And I'm going to tell you why. You know how I know that? Is because Ryan Garcia still, out of all these up-and-coming guys, out of all these 130 pounders, he is the most nominally paid out of all of them. Wow. I mean, he said he was getting offered $100,000 to fight here, and it is what it is. It's like, if the money's not there, the money's not there, man. I mean, yeah, your little Instagram followers or whatever, they don't buy the zone. If you give them some free tickets, they'll go. You know what I mean? But these people traditionally aren't the ones are the backbone, that are the the supply chain for boxing, which is like, blue collar middle class guys, that like boxing, and in fact, just the opposite. They will get turned off by guys like Ryan Garcia. I think Ryan Garcia, I know he's got some speed. I mean, he's quick. He's got fast hands. All that nonsense he does in those training videos means nothing. It means nothing. It doesn't matter how many times you could do this, as fast you could do this when your feet are bouncing up and down, because who fights that way?
I said that. Remember, like that little girl that they were showing, they had her on this.
Yeah.
This little 9-10-year-old girl was going from talk show to talk show. She's over here. She's doing this on a tree. And I'm thinking to myself, like,
the tree don't hit back.
Thank you. It's over. That's the conversation. So
now stylistically, I mean, I've only seen Campbell fight a couple of times. I know he's a southpaw, right? He's a southpaw. He's tall. He's rangy. What, he's 5'10", 5'11", so he's good size for 135. Let's face it. He's not on the upside of his career. He's had his big moments and big fights, and he's kind of come up short in all of them. He really has. Against Lenards, against Lomachenko, he's come up short. I mean, maybe, like you said, Garcia is getting him at the right time. But one thing I do notice that Ryan has a problem with, and he continues in almost every fight that he's been in, and if you even go back and look at his sparring footage, he's the kind of fighter that does not know how to get off the line. He pulls straight back with his hands down. And I don't know what kind of punch Campbell possesses at this stage in his career, but I'll tell you this. There's something in me that says I could see Ryan Garcia, in order to avoid Campbell pulling straight back and still getting clipped. And I'm not saying it's going to put him out or put him down, because like I said, I don't know what kind of chin Ryan Garcia has. We've yet to see him really get hit. But, like we just saw this Angel Barrientos kid, a lot of hype, blah, 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 right? He gets in with a guy that didn't follow the script and came at him and fought his fight and stopped him. I mean, I'm really confused as to how to even pick this fight. I think this fight, it can be competitive, but then again, I mean, if Ryan catches him cold and quick with he's got a pretty decent left hook. If he catches him cold and quick, I mean, who knows? He could hit Campbell and drop him for the 10 counter. Just he gets up on such unsteady legs that in Dallas, Texas, I'd venture to say right now.
That's what I was going to tell you. That's what I was going to say right now.
I venture to say right now, hey, Luke Campbell, if you can hear us, do not let this go to the cards. And you know what? And if a referee asks you if you're okay, you better put your hands up, recite your ABCs, and say, I'm fine, because they will. Don't kid yourself for a second to think that this fight will not get stopped like that.
Well, it's not only just that, bro. It's
Lawrence Cole is probably going to get the assignment, or Russell Mora. I don't know who it is yet, but I guarantee you it's going to be one of the two. Lawrence Cole or Russell Mora. Do we have officials assigned yet for the fight? The official and judges?
I'll look into it. I'll look into it.
It's gonna be Lawrence Cole, who's the worst referee. The fact that guy's even still working, the guy's not qualified to work a 4-rounder.
Yeah,
and he's doing professional, top tier fights. But that's a whole nother.
Yeah, I don't see anything on the thing yet. But getting back, like what you made a great point, was Campbell's has done this in past fights. He did this in the fight against Lomachenko. He did this in the fight against Linares. He did this in another early loss, the one against Mendy. He's done this in other fights. He has a tendency sometimes to lay against the ropes and allow punches to come in almost kind of like this bait, like the old, playing
like a rope-a-dope, like a Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, but kind of like playing possum a little bit, take a little bit to give a little bit. Let me tell you something right now. When you have a guy on there that, even though the punches aren't as hard as he contends that they are, and you got Ryan Garcia in here doing this, and you're on the ropes, watch how fast that referee's going to jump in and stop this fight. Keep your back off the ropes, Campbell.
Yeah. Do not let it go to the cards, and keep your back off the ropes.
Yeah, because as soon as you give this kid, if he gets hurt a little bit, takes a bad, weird step, goes in thinking one little flurry, watch how quick this is going to get stopped.
Yes, I agree. Or if he gets dropped and gets up and he even looks remotely unsteady. Yes. Now the other way, if Campbell does hurt Ryan Garcia, you don't even have to anticipate it. I can guarantee you, Ryan's going to get every benefit of every doubt in this fight. And Campbell's got to know that going in, and I'm sure he does. A lot of guys say they know it, blah blah blah. But let's see if their corners or trainers or managers actually have these discussions and make them very, very visible, vocal. Make them very known vocally. before the fight, during the fight, after the fight. Let it be known that, hey, you know what? We know we're coming into the Lions den here, and we just want a fair shake. And if any shenanigans are pulled on us, hey, we will immediately. We got the protest form already filled out. All I got to do is sign it and put the exact reason why we're protesting this fight. Because
you're right,
I'm telling you, man. That's the side of this business we should not even have to discuss. But sadly, we do have to discuss.
It's like the movie. If you've ever seen the movie, the one with Woody Harrelson about the zombies. What's it called again? Zombieland. The one kid always talked about double tap, meaning when you drop a zombie, hit him again with it again because he's not out yet. That guy Gongora, who fought against kind of Triple G's stablemate a few weeks ago, made that mistake. He had his opportunities against him and finally didn't wake up until the very last round. I'm gonna tell you right now, if he doesn't stop him there, he loses the fight. He was down on every card.
Yeah.
Huge. So the point is, Campbell, if Campbell hurts Garcia, double tap. Make sure, don't let him get out of that round. Don't give him an opportunity to recuperate.
Nope.
Put him to sleep. Because if you don't put him to sleep, you're going to live to regret it. Because I tell you right now, so many fighters do. Gongora almost lived to regret it. But I sat right here and thought about how many fighters have that opportunity and let it slip away. Don't let it slip away.
And that's where it comes down to the mental aspect of boxing, man. This sport is so mental. It is so much more mental than it is physical. If anybody has ever stepped in the ring, I don't care if it's just for a 3-round or a 1-round exhibition, sparring, whatever, you know how much mentally it drains you. You have to be smart in there. Campbell seems like a smart guy, maybe he's been through the amateur program, through the Olympics. So hopefully he doesn't come out there with that deer in the headlights because he's in Dallas, Texas. Everybody who's in attendance, however many the capacity is going to be rooting against him.
Yeah.
So he's just really got to fight. He's got to fight the perfect fight and then some.
And that's where I get back, bro. When I was saying that to you earlier, the other day when we were talking, everybody was putting so much emphasis on, this is a huge step up for Ryan Garcia. Luke Campbell's been there, done that. I'm thinking to myself, when? Okay, yeah, he fought against Lomachenko, he fought against Linares, but let's be honest, he lost those fights. Was he competitive? I don't know.
He was competitive for some rounds. I thought he comfortably lost both fights, but
Yeah, but that's what I was saying earlier. It's like at no point in the fight did you ever think Luke Campbell had assumed control of the fight and the other fighter, and whether it be Linares or Lomachenko, was in fear of losing the fight. Campbell had his moments, but he's not that fighter. He's another guy who has talent, but once it's time to step up to that next level, he's come up short. And he's come up short twice. So, kind of like Danny Garcia, in a sense, of what happened with him with Errol Spence. So let's be honest. Is this really as big of a step that they're claiming that Ryan Garcia is taking right now? Because honestly, I'm looking at a guy and Luke Campbell, we just don't know. We really don't. Because it's hard to gauge because Ryan Garcia is so much different than the other people that he's fought. Not just because he's younger, maybe a little quicker, doesn't hit as hard. You're not going to tell me Ryan Garcia hits as hard as Lomachenko or Linares. But there's one thing that Ryan Garcia is going to bring to this fight, and you just touched it a minute ago, that might really screw Luke Campbell's head. That's the crowd. He's got this Oscar De La Hoya-esque kind of thing going on. And believe me, every pretty girl, every guy with a lot of money in his pockets are going to be against Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell is seriously walking into the fire in Dallas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is he ready for it? Has he done it before? We don't know. We're going to find out.
Yeah. We'll see. When he fought Lomachenko, he had Lomachenko in his own backyard in London. I can't remember where he fought Linares, but Linares, it might have been in the UK.
London too. It was in UK.
London. So this is his first time really stepping out and coming across the pond and going into a hostile territory.
And that's what I was saying, bro, was that it's easy for people to think that everything's going to be copacetic, but then once put in that situation, we saw what happened to Danny Garcia, a guy who's won 2 world titles, a guy who's been there, done that. And he was starstruck. He didn't know what to do.
He was unified at 140, and then he won the title at 147, lost it to Keith Thurman.
But never a top pay-per-view headlining kind of guy. What happens even at this juncture in his career? He wasn't.
And that's the thing. He knew, he said what he needed to do, but when it came down to do it, I have no doubt that he physically couldn't do it. He just mentally, something stopped him from doing it. And that's what might happen with Campbell.
That's where I was trying to go with this whole
Always
thing.
the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of mentality,
You just never know. And like I
Yeah.
said, I think it's going to be a competitive fight. Like I said, on the other end, you were talking about it too. What happens if Campbell derails the Garcia hype train? What happens if Campbell goes in there and catches Garcia like he's done to fighters before, catches him early with Garcia's over aggression, because Garcia might go in there with this, because as much as Garcia acts like he's ready for this moment, he might not be the one ready for this moment. He might go in there, make all the mistakes that he knows the Reynosos are going to probably tell him not to make. Don't go rush in there. Don't try to end this guy in one round. This guy's been around a while. And Garcia is not going to listen to him because he wants to look good for the world. And he walks into a Luke Campbell punch. And next thing you know, he's on his back. Then what happens?
And like we touched on this a little bit earlier in this show. He doesn't have the best defense. He doesn't really react well when he's getting hit. And the best footage of it you could see is the few fights that have been on TV. And you look at his sparring footage, namely the sparring footage with Rolly Romero, where he was getting hit and he did not know how to react. He's pulling back. He's pulling back, damn near turning his back, pulling straight back, grabbing, holding.
His knees look like jelly, bro.
He was not even just that. He just didn't know how to react, how to roll with punches, how to grab, how to use any type of veteran techniques, to really, blunt his opponent's offense. And that could happen here, man.
I can't remember the kid's name, the one that fought against Garcia. This is earlier. It's a couple fights before he beat Dunas. But the kid caught Garcia early in, I think it was the first or second round, caught him with a good shot. And absolutely, Garcia stiffened up. He went back. It was almost like he didn't know what to do.
He stiffens up and goes back. Yeah. He doesn't go side to side. He just goes straight back.
I can say one thing: as much you want to say bad stuff about Luke Campbell, not always a bridesmaid, never a bride. He's gonna know what to do if you stiffen up and go straight back. There's a guy who won an Olympic gold medal.
So he'll know what to do.
You can't really compare the amateur records. I don't care how many state titles, Golden Gloves Ryan Garcia won. He never strapped that gold medal. He was never in that Olympic situation, and it's a whole nother world.
No.
So.
I agree. So anyway, so I'm going to reserve, today's Sunday. We'll be back Tuesday, obviously. Maybe Tuesday I'll delve into a little bit more and maybe actually give a prediction on,
I feel the same way.
I'm at this moment, I'm really not ready to give my prediction on the fight. I got a couple scenarios I think could happen, but like I said, we'll see. A lot of it depends. We'll know a lot when these guys, after the first round, if it goes past one, we'll know a lot on kind of where these guys are mentally. You know what I mean? So,
well, has there been any kind of once again, I'm gonna kind of go with like what you said before. The Zone does a horrible job of promoting anything, and even the promotion, even on a fight of what considered,
there's the biggest fight happening this weekend, I think, coming up. I believe,
and I haven't seen a whole lot of a promotion going unless you have the Zone.
And that's the thing. See, with ESPN, when you're watching regular TV, you're watching ESPN, you're watching a college football game. Boom, the promo comes up for the ESPN fight happening on Saturday. Yeah. You're watching the NFL on Fox or NFL on NFL on Fox. Boom, pay-per-view coming up or fights on Fox Sports 1 or whatever. The Zone, unless you got the Zone, you're just really not really hearing a whole lot about it.
But I mean, the Zone could still do things like with Facebook promo banners.
I'm sure they do, but it's just not.
I haven't seen that.
It's just not the same. I think it's just not the same. I mean, because let's face it, a lot of guys that are watching football and whatever drinking beer on a Saturday, Sunday, these guys aren't. I'm not saying they're not tech savvy. They probably have to use their phone, their iPhones, and all that shit Monday through Friday. But on the weekends, I don't want to deal with that nonsense, man. I want to watch TV. I want to sit down and have my Budweiser, my hot wings, and watch things. And that's where these promos are coming in. Oh man, there's a fight right after the game. Great. I'll just sit here, honey. I'm not getting up to do anything. I'm gonna be here for another 3 hours watching the fights after the Alabama Georgia game.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But like I said, I mean, going back again, like I said, this is gonna be one of those situations where we're gonna have to just, kind of figure out where Luke Campbell is, because I mean, let's be honest. Even in his loss to Mendy, he avenged that loss, which was a good thing. He was never going to get granted an opportunity with obviously Linares. More of a chance with Linares rather than with Lomachenko.
Lomachenko's on to different things.
Exactly. So at this juncture in Campbell's career, this is it. I mean, I don't see him getting very many big opportunities outside of what I consider regional titles within the UK.
And
If
this
he
isn't
doesn't
for
win this,
any kind of a belt unless the
no.
WBC,
But it's recognition. He beat
develop
Garcia.
some, yeah.
This will catapult him into a title shot.
Yeah. Well,
You
yeah,
know,
possibly.
it's not an eliminator. I don't even know what they're fighting for, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it's just more kind of like, at the end of the day, let's be honest. If Luke Campbell's listening, or anybody that knows Luke Campbell, let him know this. Ryan Garcia is using you as a stepping stone. He's using you and what your past performances, your past wars, the fights that you've been involved in, so he could say, I beat the man who beat this man. So I'm going to take all that and I'm going to put that into my resume.
Or I beat this man easier than Lomachenko.
Correct.
Or Linares or whoever else.
Oh, yeah. You know, if he knocks out
because at the end of the day, none of that means anything.
Yeah, if he knocks out Luke Campbell, you know right away whose name's going to get thrusted right in there. And you know who they're going to put their eye on. Ryan Garcia will put his eye on guys like Linares and Lomachenko.
Well, no, he's already said, after I knock out Luke Campbell, then I'm going to go knock out Tank Davis. And I don't know, man. I mean, I'll believe that when I see it. You know what I mean? He might just be, just talking.
After we'll see what they'll. I mean, I'm not trying to say that fight should have happened in the first place, but after seeing the way that Tank Davis hit Leo Santa Cruz, if I was Ryan Garcia, I would think so. I would seriously think about that a little bit, because say what you want to say, that was still that guy can hit,
Tank, and at 135, I think Tank, he fought that last fight at 130.
Yeah.
And I mean, if that extra 5 pounds, because Tank notoriously has had a hard time making that 130 pounds, man. If he goes at the 135,
Tank likes to eat. I hear Tank's an eater.
Dude.
There's a reason why they call him Tank. They don't call him Tank because he's so tough. They call him Tank because of the way he used to eat. That's where he got his nickname.
And I tell you, Oscar's like, hold on a second here, kid. Pump the brakes, man. I only got you and Munguia and Virgil Ortiz left, man. I can't afford to lose one of the 3 that I got left, at least on the higher profile.
Exactly.
So, anyways, anyway, so that was just about an hour, bro. I think that's everything we wanted to cover tonight. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I'm looking forward to the fight. We'll be back on Tuesday at 5:00 where we'll discuss more. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more information. We'll come up with a prediction at that time.
We're going to get into a little bit more, some fights that were signed over the weekend, and some, obviously, more of the fallout from what happened this past weekend and the fights coming up. So we'll on Tuesday, like I said, we'll have some good information for you guys on Tuesday anyways. And a prediction. I think we need to have, I'll definitely want to come through with, and just, buckle down and just make a prediction, whether I'm right or not, whatever. I don't think there's anybody that's out there, I don't care who you are, that can for sure say they know who's going to win this fight and how they're going to win it. It's just a real tough fight to call. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And then maybe also what we can do too in the next one is we could talk a little bit more about, situations like this and clown, but we'll leave you guys with this image and we'll talk about it more on Tuesday. How's that sound, bro?
Sounds good to me.
All right, brother. So with that, go ahead and take us out, bro.
Yeah, well, for all of you that join us this Sunday evening on Enter the Ring Live, thank you so much. We'll be back Tuesday. Tuesday, what would that be? The 29th, Tuesday, the 29th of December, just 3 days before the new year, man. We'll say goodbye to this 2020, man.
Thank God.
We'll be back Tuesday, 5:00 on the West Coast, 8:00 on the East Coast, and that's it. For everybody at Enter the Ring Live, Mighty Mike and Asia Raids, have a good night, everybody.
See you everybody soon.
And the Grammys suck.